This is an exciting day for locks and dams all across the inland waterway, the Mississippi River. We have been working on this piece of legislation that passed last week in the House and that we expect the Senate to vote on either later today or this weekend. It is H.R. 647. And this piece of legislation is a bill that's been supported by all the stakeholders, from the barge operators to the corn growers, the soybean producers, the coal mines, the building trades who will be doing the upgrades, have all come together and said, look, our infrastructure's aged, we realize it's going to take money to rebuild it, and we're willing to put the cash in if you help us do it. And so that's what H.R. 647 really does. It raises the revenue stream that we use to build our locks and dams and to maintain them. It increases the barge fuel tax by 9 cents a gallon. Currently, this Inland Waterway Trust Fund is generating $75 to $85 million a year, depending on how much fuel is consumed. The current federal law says every dollar of fuel tax gets a dollar-to-dollar match from the federal treasury. So in other words, when we generate $75 to $85 million in barge tax, the U.S. Treasury kicks in another $75 to $85 million. This piece of legislation, by increasing it 9 cents, will generate another $27 to $36 million a year, which roughly is about $60 plus million a year additional, or over $500 million over the next 10 years. What does that mean? Well, it means that some of our most decrepit locks and dams can finally get an upgrade. The good news is the bill passed. The really good news is we've got some of the worst locks and dams in America. And so because of the poor shape of our infrastructure, we're at the top of the list in terms of locks that will be upgraded. Behind me is Lock and Dam 21 in Quincy. This lock was built in 1938. Each year, 25 million tons of goods travel through it, and it's expected to need about a $19.7 million upgrade. And that $20 million of upgrade on this lock will mean about 600 jobs that will be created to do that work. The oldest lock, or the worst shaped lock, is also in the 18th district in America, and that's the LaGrange lock. And the LaGrange lock is just up the river. It was opened in 1939, needs $76 million worth of upgrades, and will be one of the first projects started and will create 2,100 jobs once it's completed. Now, why is this important? Because getting your grains to market, getting your manufactured goods to market, is part and parcel to your profitability. If you can't get your goods to market in the time in which it takes to get to market, it's not nearly as profitable. You can't get your money. Last year, 90% of America's locks and dams broke down during their normal course of work. This isn't general maintenance. This isn't scheduled maintenance. This was unscheduled stoppage that then caused backup and delays in the delivery system. So when 90% of your locks and dams are breaking down, that'll be a clarion call that we got a serious problem and it's time for America to get to work fixing these. Believe it or not, agriculture is the biggest industry in this district, but the second largest user of our lock and dam systems is actually the coal industry. And this is extremely important going forward as the EPA regulations has made our Illinois coal more difficult to burn here in the United States. It's increased the demand for coal, for Illinois coal, around the world. And so the ability, the efficiency by which we get that Illinois coal to other markets is, of course, directly proportional to its marketability and whether or not those high-wage union jobs 300 feet under the ground can remain here in the state of Illinois. So it's important to that industry as well. Nearly half of the jet fuel burned at O'Hare Airport goes up our river system. So when I was pushing this piece of legislation, sometimes I had a little pushback from my urban members of Congress who said, why do I care about locks and dams? I live in the city. To which I told my colleagues in Chicago, wait till you don't get your jet fuel, and then you'll be wondering why you didn't support the legislation. This infrastructure investment is important not only for keeping the current system operating, but it's also important as the locks and dams around the world get upgraded. Right now, the Panama Canal is completing a major overhaul and upgrade, and when they do, the new ships that will be floating through the Panama Canal are going to be called Panamax ships, and a Panamax ship is 3 times the size of the current largest sailing vessel. So 3 times the size of a ship right now means that the barge traffic has to be able to flow that much quicker. And the locks up and down the upper Mississippi and inland waterways are traditionally 600-foot locks. And these upgrades will expand most of them to 1,200-foot locks, which will allow the full barge unit to flow down and not have to be decoupled as currently is the case at many of these locks. And so the speed at which these locks, or the speed at which these barges are able to get down the waterway and load it onto a larger Panamax vessel is important for our competitiveness in the world. 40% of the world's commerce right now is in Asia. So that's where these Panamax vessels go. That's why they travel through the canal to get there. That's the quickest route. And so if we're going to compete in that huge percentage of the world's GDP, we got to make sure that our goods, our grain, our manufactured goods are able to get there as quickly as other parts of the world. So this investment's important not just for the here and now, not just to fix right now it's broken, but also to expand the capacity so we're able to in a better position to compete around the world. With that, I'm going to let some other folks tell you what this means to them. First up is Gary Speckart from the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Okay.
Take it over.
Absolutely.
Welcome. Yep.
Well, on behalf of the Illinois Farm Bureau, members of the Illinois Farm Bureau, we'd like to thank you for your help in this legislation. Yes, absolutely. When other members of Congress ran away from the barge diesel fuel fee increase, imagining that be used in campaign ads against them, you sponsored the bill. You showed leadership, good leadership. Aaron recognized it was something that the industry wanted, and recognized that major rehab and new construction lots in the Mississippi and Illinois River are long overdue. As a member of the Ways and Means Committee, he was instrumental in inserting the bill language in the ABLE Act, which was a must-pass bill. We thank you for that. The Illinois corn and soybean farmers have harvested a mountain of grain this fall. Obviously, this grain has to be marketed to buyers and processors throughout the world. Here in Western Illinois, we producers are blessed with the convenience of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River has potential to economically transport the grain to the Gulf of Mexico. The river gives us a price advantage, and soon to be completed Panama Canal expansions, as you mentioned, will create opportunities to be for increased American trade, but not if our channels are not dredged and if our locks and dams are not functioning. It's crucial that the locks in the Mississippi River be upgraded to allow our corn, soybeans, and wheat to reach the Gulf in a timely manner. 60% of the nation's export-bound grain is transported on the inland waterways. This year we have a record crop, and a modern waterway infrastructure not only adds value to our crop, but allows us to lower transportation costs and maintain our competitive advantage against producers outside the United States. American consumers benefit from the transportation cost savings made possible by the inland waterways. For every dollar invested in our inland waterways, $10 is returned in national benefits. We must keep momentum going in the next Congress and start pouring concrete here and downriver. The recently passed worded bill, coupled with more revenue coming into the Inland Waterway Trust Fund, will help provide the means to do just that. Once again, we'd like to thank Congressman Schock for his leadership and his appreciation of the issues of importance to Illinois agriculture. Thank you.
Congressman Schock and all the other dignitaries gathered here today, on behalf of the board and staff of the Great River Economic Development Foundation, I want to thank you for your continued hard work and supportive efforts to improve the competitiveness of our region. Inland waterways are a critical part of the business environment in Quincy and Adams County. Nearly every company in the South Quincy Development District rely on barge access to support their operations. Maintaining and improving the river infrastructure is not only critical now, but would be critical continuing well into the future. According to some industry reports that I recently read, the production potential for agricultural commodities is expected to increase 30 to 50% over the next 20 to 30 years. The road, rail, and current river infrastructure can't support that increase. The maintenance and upgrading of the Mississippi River infrastructure is the logical alternative to allow both agricultural and industrial manufacturers to supply their products to the global market and to bring in the raw materials they need for their operations. Lastly, the development of the planned new river port facilities in Quincy presents a unique opportunity for this region to become a center of multimodal logistics. Road, rail, and especially river modes of transportation drive the success of existing regional businesses and provide tremendous future potential for our region. And I just want to thank the Congressman for all your work and support on this.
Thanks, Marcel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.